Imagine for a moment a vast desert. The sand stretches flat and pale beneath a relentless sun. Nothing moves, nothing is visible for miles. And yet, beneath your feet, hundreds of meters underground, centrifuges are spinning. 17,000 of them, humming in long, silent rows, each one performing the same task over and over again, taking a gas, feeding it through a machine, and pulling from it something that ordinary matter does not easily yield. A single isotope, uranium-235. The question that haunted half a century of diplomacy, of espionage, of war, was not whether this was happening. It was, how far had it gone? How close was Iran to the bomb? And who, in the end, would decide when to stop it? This is the story of Iran's nuclear program. Before we go further, if you find yourself drawn into this history, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. It genuinely helps this kind of work reach more people. Now, back to 1953. In the autumn of 1953, a young American president named Dwight D. Eisenhower stood before the United Nations General Assembly and made a promise. He called it Atoms for Peace. The idea was elegant in its ambition. The terrible energy that had destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki could, Eisenhower argued, be turned toward light rather than darkness, toward power plants, medicine, and the development of nations. America would share this knowledge with the world. Iran was listening. At the time, Iran was ruled by Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, a monarch of grand visions and grander insecurities. The Shah saw in nuclear technology not merely electricity but prestige, a seat at the table of modernity, proof perhaps that ancient Persia still had something to say to a world increasingly dominated by superpowers. In 1957, the United States and Iran signed a civil nuclear cooperation agreement. In 1967, the Tehran Nuclear Research Center opened its doors, equipped with a 5-megawatt research reactor fueled by American uranium. And then, in 1968, Iran signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. On paper, this was a commitment to pursue nuclear technology only for peaceful purposes. In practice, it was the price of admission to the nuclear club. The Shah had no intention of stopping there. By the mid-1970s, Iran's nuclear ambitions had grown to something almost staggering in scale. The Shah spoke openly of building 23 nuclear power reactors across the country. Construction began at Bushehr on the Persian Gulf, with German engineering firms leading the work. Plans were drawn up for reactors at Ahvaz, at Isfahan, and elsewhere. Iran was not hiding its nuclear program, it was advertising it. But beneath the official plans, something else was taking shape. In the mid-1970s, according to later investigations, Iranian officials made inquiries about acquiring nuclear weapons technology. The Shah himself reportedly told a French journalist in 1974 that Iran would have nuclear weapons, without a doubt, and sooner than one thinks. Whether this was genuine ambition or geopolitical posturing, no one was ever quite sure. It did not matter. History was about to intervene. On the 1st of February 1979, a 76-year-old cleric stepped off a plane at Mehrabad Airport in Tehran. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini had spent 15 years in exile. He returned to a country in revolution, a revolution that had, in a matter of weeks, swept away the Shah, the imperial court, and the entire architecture of the old Iran. For the nuclear program, the verdict was swift. Khomeini and his followers viewed the program as a monument to Western decadence, a vanity project of a corrupt king who had sold his nation's soul to foreign powers. Within months, construction at Bushehr was halted. German engineers left the country. The nuclear apparatus was largely dismantled or abandoned. Khomeini later issued what became known as a fatwa, a religious ruling, declaring nuclear weapons to be un-Islamic and forbidden. Iran, he said, had no need for such weapons. Then came the war. In September 1980, Iraqi forces under Saddam Hussein crossed the border and began a conflict that would last 8 years, kill hundreds of thousands, and reshape Iran's understanding of vulnerability. Iraq used chemical weapons. It targeted Iranian cities. And at Bushehr, the dormant, half-finished reactor, Iraqi jets struck the site in 1987, damaging it further. Iran fought back with human wave attacks, with revolutionary fervor, with staggering sacrifice. But the experience of the war embedded something into the thinking of the Islamic Republic's leadership that would prove decisive in the decades that followed. Iran was alone. Its neighbors were hostile. Its patron states were unreliable, and it had survived barely without the ultimate deterrent. The question, never quite voiced in public, was obvious. What if, next time, it had not? In June 1989, Khomeini died. The man who had forbidden nuclear weapons was gone, and the Islamic Republic, battered by 8 years of war, began to quietly reconsider its strategic position. The new supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and the new president, Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, understood something practical. Survival required strength, and strength required options. What followed was one of the most significant covert industrial undertakings of the late 20th century. Iran began, quietly and systematically, to rebuild. The Russians, who had their own geopolitical reasons for cultivating influence in Tehran, agreed to complete the Bushehr reactor. The deal was signed in 1995. In the international community, there was grumbling but little action. But Bushehr was just the public face. In the early 1990s, Iranian procurement agents fanned out across the world's grey markets, seeking something specific and alarming: centrifuge technology. The device at the heart of uranium enrichment, the machine that spins faster than a jet engine, separating the lighter uranium-235 from its heavier cousin. They found what they were looking for in Pakistan. Abdul Qadir Khan, the father of Pakistan's nuclear bomb, a national hero in Islamabad and a proliferator of global consequence, had quietly built a black market network for selling nuclear technology to anyone who could pay. Libya bought it. North Korea bought it. Iran bought it. Khan's network provided Iran with centrifuge designs, components, and technical assistance. For years, the centrifuges spun in secret, first at a location near Kalai Electric in Tehran, then at a vast underground facility carved from a mountain range south of the holy city of Qom, Natanz. 6 to 8 meters of reinforced concrete above it, designed to survive an airstrike, built to hold 50,000 centrifuges. And south of Tehran, at Arak, construction began on a heavy water reactor, a second path potentially toward weapons-grade material. None of this was disclosed to the International Atomic Energy Agency. Iran was a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. It was legally obligated to declare its nuclear facilities. It had not. For years, the world did not know. On the 14th of August 2002, a man named Alireza Jafarzadeh held a press conference in Washington, D.C. He was a spokesman for an Iranian opposition group, the Mujahideen-e Khalq, an organization with its own complicated history and its own agenda. But what he had to say stopped the world. Iran, he announced, had been secretly constructing 2 nuclear facilities. One, an underground enrichment plant at Natanz, the other, a heavy water production plant at Arak. The International Atomic Energy Agency dispatched inspectors. What they found confirmed the worst. Iran had been conducting undeclared nuclear activities for nearly 2 decades. Traces of enriched uranium were found at facilities Iran had not mentioned. The Natanz plant was more advanced than anyone had suspected, and the explanations offered by Iranian officials raised more questions than they answered. A diplomatic crisis was born. In October 2003, the foreign ministers of France, Britain and Germany flew to Tehran. After tense negotiations, Iran agreed to suspend uranium enrichment and to allow more intrusive inspections. It was called the Tehran Declaration. It lasted less than 2 years. In August 2005, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was elected president of Iran. Where his predecessors had pursued quiet diplomacy, Ahmadinejad was a different kind of politician entirely. Defiant, populist and incendiary, he spoke of wiping Israel from the map, questioned the Holocaust, and made Iran's nuclear program a symbol of national pride. Iran broke the seals on the Isfahan conversion facility. Enrichment resumed. The United Nations Security Council passed Resolution 1696 in July 2006, demanding that Iran suspend enrichment. Iran refused. More resolutions followed. And then sanctions, American, European and United Nations sanctions that tightened progressively over the next years, strangling Iran's oil revenues, cutting off its access to the international banking system and driving its currency into free fall. The Iranian people paid a price. And still, the centrifuges spun. In 2007, the United States intelligence community produced a national intelligence estimate that surprised many observers. It concluded, with high confidence, that Iran had halted its nuclear weapons program in the autumn of 2003. The physical weapons work had been paused, but the enrichment continued, and the knowledge accumulated. In the summer of 2010, something extraordinary happened to the centrifuges at Natanz. They began to fail. Not all at once, subtly, irregularly, in ways that Iranian engineers struggled to understand. The machines that were supposed to spin indefinitely were destroying themselves. The cause was a piece of malicious software, a computer worm, that had found its way into the Natanz control systems. It was later identified as Stuxnet, and it represented something genuinely new in the history of conflict, the world's first digital weapon of mass destruction. Stuxnet was designed specifically to damage centrifuges of the type used at Natanz. It caused the machines to spin too fast, then too slow, all while sending false readings to the monitoring systems, so that Iranian engineers saw normal outputs while their equipment was silently destroying itself. By the time it was detected, it had set back Iran's enrichment program by an estimated 18 months to 2 years. It was widely attributed to the United States and Israel, though neither government publicly confirmed this for years. Around the same period, a series of assassinations targeted Iranian nuclear scientists. Masoud Ali Mohammadi, shot by a remote-controlled bomb. Majid Shahriari, killed by a car bomb in Tehran. Dariush Rezaianejad, shot outside his daughter's kindergarten. The message was unambiguous. Someone was willing to kill to slow the program down. Iran pressed on. But change was coming from an unlikely direction. In June 2013, Hassan Rouhani, a moderate, a diplomat, was elected president of Iran. And in secret, American and Iranian diplomats had begun to meet in Oman. The channel was quiet, the agenda was narrow, but the intention was serious. A deal was possible. In November 2013, the first interim agreement was reached in Geneva. And then, on the 14th of July 2015, after 18 months of grueling negotiation, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was signed in Vienna. It was, by any measure, a remarkable achievement. Iran agreed to limit its enrichment to 3.67%, far below weapons grade. It agreed to reduce its stockpile of enriched uranium by 98%. It agreed to redesign the Arak reactor. And it agreed to allow the most intrusive inspections regime in history. In exchange, sanctions relief, a pathway back into the international economy. For a brief moment, it looked like the standoff might finally be ending. On the 8th of May 2018, President Donald Trump withdrew the United States from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. He called it defective at its core. He announced a campaign of maximum pressure, a comprehensive reimposition of sanctions designed to bring Iran's economy to its knees. The other signatories, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, China, and the European Union, urged Iran to remain in the deal. They could not hold it together. The reach of American sanctions was too broad. One by one, European companies withdrew. The economic benefits that had made the deal politically sustainable in Iran evaporated. Iran waited a year. Then, in May 2019, it began to exceed the deal's limits. First, its enriched uranium stockpile, then the enrichment level itself, beyond 3.67%, higher and higher month by month. In November 2020, the most prominent figure in Iran's nuclear program was assassinated on a highway outside Tehran. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh had led Iran's most intensive past effort at weapons development. A remote-controlled weapon killed him on a country road. The killing was attributed to Israel. Negotiations to revive the nuclear deal began in Vienna in April 2021. They dragged through round after round, through changes in administration, through near agreements that fell apart at the last moment. Iran's enrichment level reached 20%, then 60%. The International Atomic Energy Agency reported uranium enriched to 83.7%, close enough to weapons grade that the agency's director described it as alarming. Iran said it was a technical accident. By late 2024, Iran was assessed to have enough enriched uranium, if further refined, for several nuclear warheads. Its breakout time, the time needed to produce sufficient weapons-grade uranium for one bomb, had collapsed from the 12 months guaranteed by the JCPOA to, by some estimates, 1 to 2 weeks. The shadow of the atom had never been darker. The end, when it came from the sky. In June 2025, Israel launched a series of strikes on Iranian military and nuclear targets, the opening of what would be described later as a 12-day conflict. Iran's air defenses were degraded, key sites were struck, and then the United States entered. 7 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, the most advanced strategic aircraft in the American arsenal, approached from altitude. Each carried the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, a 30,000-pound bunker-busting bomb designed specifically to reach hardened underground facilities. The targets were Natanz, Fordo, Isfahan. The results were severe. Natanz, the great enrichment hub where thousands of centrifuges had spun for 2 decades, destroyed. Fordo, the underground facility carved from a mountain near Qom, major damage. Isfahan, the conversion and fabrication site, extensively damaged. The International Atomic Energy Agency ceased verification activities in Iran at the onset of hostilities. By the end of June 2025, the last inspectors had withdrawn. For the first time in decades, the world had no eyes inside Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Iran blocked the IAEA from returning. Negotiations over resumed inspections continued into 2026 with no resolution. As of July 2026, American and Iranian officials have both stated that Iran is no longer enriching uranium, but it cannot be verified. No independent inspector has accessed Natanz, Fordo, or the other key sites. The damage from the strikes has not been independently confirmed. What is known is this: the physical infrastructure of Iran's nuclear program, the centrifuges, the enrichment halls, the hardened facilities built over 30 years, has been devastated. What cannot be bombed is the knowledge, the engineering expertise, the understanding of how to build centrifuges, how to enrich uranium, how to progress along the path that Iran has already walked further than almost any non-nuclear armed state in history. 70 years ago, the United States offered Iran the peaceful atom, a gift, with the implicit assumption that the gift would remain peaceful. What followed was one of the most consequential chapters in the history of nuclear proliferation. A Shah's vanity, a revolution's rejection, a war's hard lesson. A secret rebuilt in the desert, an opposition group's press conference, a worm in a machine, a deal and a deal's collapse. And finally, bombs from 30,000 feet. The question that haunted half a century of intelligence reports, of Security Council resolutions, of desperate diplomacy, has not been answered. It has only been deferred. The bomb was never built. But the shadow of the atom falls across the Middle East still, and whether it belongs to the wreckage of what was destroyed or to what might yet be reconstructed in the silence where the inspectors no longer go, that, as yet, no one can say with certainty. History has a way of not ending when we expect it to. If you found this documentary valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. History this consequential deserves the widest possible audience. Thank you for watching.